Number 10. Hadal Gigantism. In 2012, a research team lowered a baited trap into the Mariana Trench and pulled it back up, carrying something that should not have been possible. Amphipods, crustaceans that in shallow water grow to roughly a centimeter, were crawling over the bait in masses, each one stretching to 30 centimeters, the length of a human forearm, from a creature the size of a thumbnail. This was not an isolated incident. The deeper scientists look, the larger things get. Giant isopods exceeding 50 centimeters, jellyfish with bells wider than a person is tall, sea spiders, animals that in coastal waters are smaller than a fingernail, found at abyssal depths with leg spans approaching 70 centimeters. The phenomenon has a name: Hadal gigantism. It is consistent, it is documented, and it is not fully understood. The leading explanations are plausible but incomplete. Cold temperatures slow metabolism, which may allow longer growth periods. Oxygen levels in the deep are surprisingly high, removing one biological ceiling. The near absence of predation pressure at extreme depths may allow body size to accumulate unchecked across generations. Each of these factors likely contributes. None of them alone closes the case. But here's what the science does not address directly. These are invertebrates. Small animals, ancestrally small, scaling up dramatically under deep sea conditions. The same pressures, cold, oxygen, time, absence of predation, apply equally to every lineage present in those depths. We have confirmed gigantism in the creatures we have managed to retrieve. The deep ocean is not transparent. The creatures we have retrieved are the ones small enough and slow enough to be caught by the equipment we currently possess. What the same biological pressures have been doing over millions of years to things we have not yet retrieved is a question the data does not answer. Number 9. The deep scattering layer. During the Second World War, naval sonar operators began reporting a persistent anomaly. Across multiple ocean basins, in water that charts indicated should be open and deep, sonar was bouncing back from what appeared to be a solid surface, a false seafloor sitting hundreds of meters above the real one. Operators assumed equipment malfunction. Then they noticed it moved. Every evening, across thousands of kilometers of open ocean, this false bottom rose toward the surface. Every morning before dawn, it descended again. It was not geological, it was biological. What sonar operators had been pinging off was a layer of living organisms so densely packed that it scattered and absorbed sound waves across entire ocean basins. Fish, squid, lanternfish, crustaceans, siphonophores, stacked in a column of biomass, performing the largest coordinated migration on Earth every single night, without exception. The deep scattering layer is not a curiosity. Conservative biomass estimates place the total weight of organisms participating in this migration in the billions of tons. It rises under cover of darkness to feed on the plankton blooming near the surface, then retreats before light returns, sinking back into the permanent dark. The system is ancient, relentless, and enormous, but the deep scattering layer is not an apex. It is prey. This mass of billions of tons of organisms ascends nightly into a world of predators and descends each morning back into the deep, where something is waiting for it. The food chain does not terminate at the layer itself. Something sits above it in the hierarchy of that dark column, feeding on the biomass as it moves. We have identified some of those predators. Sperm whales dive to intercept it. Certain shark species follow its margins. But the total predation pressure exerted on a layer this vast, operating across every major ocean basin simultaneously, has never been fully accounted for. We have found the prey. The full picture of what eats it remains, in the deep, unresolved. Number 8. The brine pools. At the bottom of the Gulf of Mexico, roughly 200 kilometers off the Louisiana coast, the seafloor opens and something pours out that is not quite ocean. It pools in depressions in the sediment. It has a visible surface, a distinct shoreline. Waves, generated by deep currents, move across it in slow motion. It looks, from the cameras of a submersible, exactly like a lake, except it sits at the bottom of an ocean, under more than 600 meters of water above it. These are brine pools, water so saturated with dissolved salt, 5 times the concentration of the normal seawater, that it is denser than the ocean surrounding it and simply will not mix. It sits contained in its own basin, chemically sealed from the water above. Animals that venture too close and cross the boundary experience osmotic shock, so severe that their cells lose water almost instantaneously. Fish and crustaceans filmed at the margins of brine pools convulse and die within seconds of contact. The shoreline of a brine pool is a killing field, littered with the bodies of animals that misjudged the boundary. And yet, the pools are not dead. Microbial mats carpet the interior surfaces in dense, living layers. Chemosynthetic bacteria metabolize the hydrogen sulfide and methane, seeping up through the sediment, sustaining ecosystems that require no sunlight, no oxygen in the conventional sense, and no connection to the world above. The Orca Basin in the Gulf of Mexico, the Enion brine pools discovered in the Red Sea in 2020, each one a sealed environment, running on its own chemistry, supporting life that has no need for anything the surface provides. We have found a handful of these structures. The ocean floor spans 361 million square kilometers. The search has been neither systematic nor complete. The brine pools we have located are the ones we happen to position a submersible above. How many sealed environments exist below us, running their own chemistry, sustaining their own biology? In water we have not yet looked at directly. The ocean has not told us. It has simply continued to contain them. Number 7. The bloop. In 1997, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration was operating a network of hydrophones originally installed across the Pacific Ocean floor during the Cold War. The system was built for one purpose: to detect the acoustic signature of Soviet submarine activity and underwater nuclear tests. It was exquisitely sensitive. It could detect a whale surfacing thousands of kilometers away. In the summer of 1997, while the array was recording routine ambient data, it captured something that fit neither category. The sound lasted roughly 1 minute. Its frequency profile dropped across that minute in a pattern that resembled, loosely, a biological call. But the amplitude, the sheer volume of the thing, was extraordinary. It registered across the entire Pacific hydrophone network simultaneously, meaning the source was powerful enough to be detected by sensors separated by thousands of kilometers of open ocean. No known biological organism on Earth produces sound at that scale. The blue whale, the loudest animal we have confirmed, was not close. The sound was informally named the bloop, and it entered scientific literature as genuinely unclassified. In 2012, NOAA researchers proposed an explanation. The acoustic profile, they argued, was consistent with what is known as an ice quake, the sound produced when large Antarctic ice masses fracture and shift. The frequency drop, the duration, the directionality, all plausibly explained by a cryogenic geological event. Many scientists accepted this. Others noted that the match was approximate, not precise, and that the signal's characteristics still contained elements the icequake model did not fully account for. The bloop is not alone in the catalogue. The upsweep, a sustained narrowband signal recorded since 1991, still active, source unknown. The whistle, a brief, highly anomalous frequency spike with no confirmed origin. The Julia, a 15-second sound recorded in 1999 that NOAA described, with characteristic understatement, as unusual. These are not myths. They are entries in a formal scientific database of sounds recorded from the deep ocean that remain without a confirmed source. We built the most sensitive underwater listening network in history to monitor for human technology. What we got, alongside the submarines and the tests, was a catalogue of sounds the ocean makes that we have not yet explained. The catalogue is still open. Number 6. The geometric sand circles. In 1995, divers exploring shallow coastal waters off the southern coast of Japan began encountering something on the seafloor that had no obvious explanation. Geometric circles, roughly 2 meters in diameter, had been formed in the sandy sediment. They were not simple rings. The circles contained intricate radial ridges emanating from a flat central depression, precise and symmetrical, the kind of pattern that in any other context would suggest the involvement of a compass and a plan. They appeared, disappeared, and reappeared. No one knew what was making them. For nearly 2 decades, the circles remained unexplained. Then, in 2011, a photographer positioned himself and waited. The architect was a pufferfish. a small one measuring roughly 12 centimeters. Working alone, using only the motion of its fins against the sediment, it spent approximately 7 to 9 days constructing each circle from scratch. The radial ridges were not decorative. Analysis showed that the circle's geometry funneled fine sediment particles toward the central depression, improving the substrate quality for egg laying. The structure also created microscale acoustic and chemical gradients that improved egg survival rates. The pufferfish had not been taught this. There was no observable template. It simply built the optimal structure, alone, over days, with a brain that weighs a fraction of a gram. This is the entry that appears to resolve cleanly and does not. The explanation is not reassuring. What it confirms is that deliberate, geometrically optimized construction is occurring on the ocean floor, driven by biological imperatives we did not know existed. In species we had observed for years without understanding what they were doing. We found this one because a diver happened to be in the right place. The pufferfish builds in shallow water. The deep ocean floor, the 95% of it that no human instrument has examined directly, contains species we have not observed at all, engaged in behaviors we have not witnessed, building or doing or being things we have not yet had the equipment or the patience to see. The circles were there for 20 years before we understood them. That interval of ignorance is not exceptional. It is the rule. Number 5. The siphonophore. In 2020, a research team operating a remotely operated vehicle off the coast of Western Australia encountered something in the water column that required several passes to fully resolve. At first, it appeared to be a current disturbance, or perhaps a long filament of debris drifting in a slow spiral. Then the cameras closed in and the shape clarified. It was an animal, a single animal. It measured 45 meters in length. It was the longest organism ever recorded in the history of biology, and it was alive, and it had no brain. Apolemia is a siphonophore, a colonial organism composed of individual animals called zooids, each one biologically independent and simultaneously a functional component of the larger structure. Some zooids handle propulsion, others manage feeding, others exist solely for reproduction, others function as the sensory periphery of the colony. No single zooid controls the others. There is no central nervous system, no command structure, no hierarchical decision-making. Coordination across 45 meters of living tissue occurs through chemical signaling alone. Siphonophores hunt. They extend curtains of stinging tentacles across volumes of water in coordinated formations that function as a unified net, herding prey and collapsing inward. The behavior is predatory, strategic, and effective. It emerges from an organism with no brain, no centralized intelligence, and no individual component capable of conceiving the action being performed collectively. We tend to think of dangerous things in the ocean as things with teeth, or size, or speed. Siphonophores are none of those things in the conventional sense. What they are is a distributed predatory system operating at a scale and through a mechanism that our existing frameworks for intelligence and agency do not accommodate. The 45-meter specimen found off Western Australia was not a record setter in the way records usually work. It was simply the largest one we happened to see on that particular dive. Siphonophores are not rare. They are present throughout the world's oceans, at depth, in the dark, coordinating without thinking in ways that produce outcomes indistinguishable from strategy. We do not have a category for what they are. We have only a name. Number 4. The colossal squid. Every sperm whale that researchers have examined closely carries scars. Circular marks distributed across the skin near the head, left by the hooks of squid during predation struggles in deep water. Most are consistent with the giant squid, Architeuthis dux, the animal that has occupied the upper range of cephalopod mythology for centuries. But some of the scars are different, larger, and not from suckers. They are from rotating hooks, the signature of a separate species entirely. Mesonicoteuthis hamiltoni, the colossal squid. The colossal squid is heavier than the giant squid. Where the giant squid uses serrated sucker rings to grip prey, the colossal squid carries hooks on its tentacles that rotate, designed not to grip, but to tear. The largest specimen ever retrieved weighed 495 kilograms and measured roughly 10 meters. It was caught near the surface, exhausted, and died before reaching port. It was a large specimen. It was not, based on the scars found on sperm whales, the largest one. We have never observed a living adult colossal squid in its natural habitat. Every specimen in the scientific record was dead, dying, or juvenile at recovery. The deep scattering layer, billions of tons of biomass migrating nightly through the water column, represents in part the food supply sustaining animals at this scale. We know the colossal squid exists because of what it does to sperm whales. We know it is larger than what we have caught because the mathematics of the scars demand it. We have its wounds. We have never seen its face in the wild. The apex predator of the largest biome on Earth remains, in every meaningful observational sense, unknown to us. Number 3. The Tully Monster. In the Maison Creek fossil beds of Illinois, preserved in iron carbonate nodules deposited roughly 307 million years ago, paleontologists have recovered thousands of specimens of an animal called Tullimonstrum gregarium, first described in 1966. 60 years later, we still cannot agree on what it was. The body plan resists processing. A soft-bodied organism roughly 20 centimeters long, with a flexible proboscis extending from its front end and terminating in a small toothed claw, eyes mounted not on the head, but on rigid transverse stalks extending laterally from the body, a finned tail, internal structures that suggest, depending on the analyst, either a primitive vertebrate or something occupying no clear position in any existing taxonomic group. A 2016 study argued the Tully monster was a vertebrate, a primitive lamprey relative. A 2019 study reanalyzed the same evidence and argued the opposite. Both teams examined the same specimens with the same tools and arrived at incompatible conclusions. The animal does not fit. The ocean has been generating body plans for over 500 million years. The Tully monster is a documented case of it producing something our entire classification system cannot accommodate. And the Tully monster fossilized, which is exceptional. Most soft-bodied deep-sea organisms leave no fossil record. The evolutionary experiments the ocean has been running in the dark, in creatures that will never surface and never fossilize, are experiments we have no access to. The Tully monster is the one that left evidence. It is a reminder that the ocean invents things outside our categories, and mostly does so without our knowledge. Number 2. The Dumbo octopus. Grimpoteuthis, the Dumbo octopus, is named for the ear-like fins that propel it in slow, undulating pulses. Pale, soft, moving with something that resembles floating. Specimens have been recovered from depths exceeding 7,000 meters. It has no ink sac. The ink octopuses deploy as a defensive screen in shallow water is a response to visual predators in a lit environment. At 7,000 meters, in permanent darkness, ink serves no function. Evolution removed it. The Dumbo octopus eats prey whole and alive, a technique suited to an environment where nothing can be dropped or lost in the dark. Females carry eggs in multiple developmental stages simultaneously. This means a Dumbo octopus is never reproductively idle. It does not wait for optimal conditions because in the deep ocean, conditions do not vary with season. The dark is permanent. The cold is constant. There is no spring. This is what the Dumbo octopus actually is. Beneath the fins, an organism so completely remade by permanent darkness that it has shed every feature evolved for a world with light. It is not adapted to the deep ocean. It is native to it. We descend, observe, and return to the surface. The Dumbo octopus has never needed to. The deep is not its habitat. It is simply where it lives, the way we live on land, without considering what lives beneath us. Number 1. The 52 Hertz whale. In 1989, analysts monitoring United States Navy hydrophones originally deployed to track Soviet submarines detected a call, biological in character. It moved, it varied, it behaved as a living signal, but its frequency was 52 Hertz. Every confirmed whale species vocalizes between 10 and 40 Hertz. No known species calls at 52. The sound had no owner. It was tracked. Year after year, the signal reappeared, migrating seasonally across the North Pacific in patterns consistent with a large whale. The frequency has shifted slightly over decades, consistent with an animal aging. In over 30 years of monitoring, it has never been recorded twice simultaneously, suggesting a single individual. In over 30 years of monitoring, no other animal has responded to it. three hypotheses exist: a hybrid between two species, producing a call neither parent uses, a congenital deformity so severe the vocal apparatus falls entirely outside its species' audible range, an unknown species, calling in the only register it possesses, none confirmed. The animal has never been visually identified. What we have is a signal, decades of it, something alive, something large, something that has grown older across the years we have been listening. It moves through the largest ocean on Earth in a frequency nothing alive can hear. And it has been doing this since before most people currently alive were born. The ocean has not explained it. It has simply continued to transmit into the dark, into the silence, into a frequency that carries the call wherever the water carries it, and is met every time with nothing. I'll be sharing more similar videos in the future, so subscribe to stay tuned.